Differences on this question, you're dealing with sine. It's already in fireproof form. You should be able to identify A, B, H, and K. Go. Let's see what you can do. Okay. Did you get the correct A, B, H, and K? 1, 1, negative pi over 4, and 0. You got the correct center line. You found HK. Is HK on the sine wave or under the max? That's actually on the wave, right? I need to make up a story about how sine is a very nice, inclusive person. Always includes all the H's and the K's. Never mind. I'll figure that out someday. How far to the right should I be going? Well, I guess that means I need to know the period of the function. What's the 2 pi, right? There's been no stretch. No stretch at all, or shrink. How about that amplitude? Still a 1, right? Because we haven't done a stretch or shrink on that. Okay, so how far to the right do I go? Where do I stop for the last point of that cycle? I'll give you a hint. It's not right there. It is. It's 7 pi over 4. It's right. It's 1 pi over 4 backwards from that. Just imagine the whole cycle shifting 1 pi over 4 to the left. So if you thought about the original one going from 0 to 2 pi, all we did was pick the whole thing up and slide it over. So if the other one went through pi, this one will go through right there at 3 pi over 4. Yeah, I know, it's not labeled. Got to use your imagination a little. So if that's point number 1, and that's point number 2, and that's point number 3, how do I find the fourth one between 1 and 3? Between 1 and 3, what do I do? Well, is the point right there? Is it down here? Is it up here? It's up. Yeah. Get rid of those other 2 imposters. Okay? And then between 2 and 3, where is point number 5? Below. Okay? So. All that stuff in there is pretty boring. We pretty much know it all in there. I'm not going to waste your time with that because everything's pretty much the same. You just shifted it to the left. Go to question 3. ABH. Go to question 3. Is it in fireproof form? Kind of. Not really. What's the one thing you would do to get it into fireproof form? You add 2. Put the vertical change over on the vertical side. So what do we have for A and B? Those are both 1s, right? What about H? Positive pi. And K? Close. Negative 2. Right, -2, positive pi. What's our amplitude? 1, right? Yep, no change. And period, 2 pi. Okay, graph it. Find your center line. Identify HK. Decide whether it's on the wave or under a max. We do. Any questions on that? I mean, now's a good time to ask me. Yes, sir. Any fireproof form suggestions? Divide by 2. Awesome choice. What's A? It is still a 1, folks. What's B? 2. H? 3 pi over 4 is correct. K? 0. Graph it. Find your center line of your wave. Think about period. Think about amplitude. Find your HK. Determine whether HK is on the wave or under the max. And I discussed that with several of you, 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4 to get to that spot. What did you think you would do with the end of the original sine wave? It also moves over 3 pi over 4. So you can use what you know about the original one if you're struggling with the idea of starting here and going over here 2 pi units. But that would be the second point of your wave. Your third one is smack dab in the middle on the center line, and then up and down the river. Be a weird looking river. I don't know, I'll find one. Is it in fireproof form? Please say no. No, thank you very much. Okay, so obviously you can see that there's no change on the vertical. There's nothing outside the sine function that needs to be transitioned to the other side. So everything's going to be the same normal stuff for the y's. It's the x's we have to look at here. Okay, now those of you who say that h is negative pi, please stop. Okay, it is not. Now, 2x plus pi that's inside here is really the same thing as 2x plus pi over 1. Does everybody agree that you can divide anything by 1? Okay, now, fireproof form says we want 1x. What are you going to multiply 2x by to change it into a 1x? 1/2. And if you do it to the top, you better do it to the bottom. So when you distribute that, what do you end up with? X plus pi over 2. Don't say half pi. I know it's the same thing, but people on the street will make fun of you. Okay, and then 1/2 times 1 on the bottom. So the fireproof form of this equation is really sine of x plus pi over 2 divided by 1/2. Okay, what's my A, my B, my H, and my K? A is what? 1/2. Good call. How about that B? 1. H? Negative pi over 2. Yeah, be careful. Remember, it's x minus h. And K? 0. What's the period of this one? Only 1 pi, right, because we cut the period in half. All right? And the amplitude? Still 1. Okay. Find the center line of the wave. Find your HK. Not be fun. Okay, I don't know who put HK in the middle of all this algebra, but, that's ridiculous. Okay, so yeah, I found my HK, but it was like right inside the parenthesis. Okay, how far to the right should I go before I start the cycle over again? 1 pi. So according to my scale, 1 pi would take me to here. It has to start and stop the cycle in that one in between. So there's the first point, the second point, the third point, the fourth point, and the fifth point, which many of you were getting. Good job. We can tell there's no change in the vertical because nothing's outside the cosine function. Okay, everything is inside with the horizontal. It's not in fireproof form. What are you going to multiply this by to the top and bottom to get it equal to 1x? 1/2 would be an excellent selection. And that would give me x plus what? Pi over 4 divided by 1/2. Okay, now that we've got it in fireproof form, you do the rest. Find your A, B, H, and K. This information, identified your HK, and then you went up to find your first point because you're dealing with cosine, not sine. And then to the right, pi units, because that's your amplitude. Halfway in between, you're at the bottom of the wave, and halfway in between here and here, you're on the center line and on the center line. Yep, question. Question. Let's take a look. Were 5 and 6 basically the same grade? I gotta vote for yes. See, this one crosses through the 0. Yeah, it looks like that. Moved over power 4.
Okay, I wanted to work through a few more of these problems. This is page 20, I believe. Let me just double check. Yeah, page 20. Move it around back to where I had it. And so it's not in fireproof form. So I want to just practice doing that with you, okay? We're going to bring this over to the other side, which would be y plus 4. And then we're going to divide by 3 to get that to be down there. The tricky part of these is the 2x minus pi. Now, in the previous part of this video, you saw me do something like this, and I asked the question, how could I transform that into 1x? So what we would do is figure out what to multiply this by to make it a 1x. Of course, in this particular answer, the question, the answer is 1/2. So that would x minus pi over 2 divided by 1/2. So really we have x minus pi over 2 divided by 1/2. So now we can identify our a, b, h, and k. Now if you want to do it on your own just to practice, pause the video and practice before I start filling it in. Okay, so the a value is 1/2. The b value is 3. H is pi over 2. K is -4. So we know the center line of the wave is going to be down here at -4, because that's your K value. We know that your period is cut in half, because remember, period is 2 pi times A, so that'd be 2 pi times 1/2, or 1 pi. And we know the amplitude is 3. And I don't have any room to write that, so I'll just refer back, 3. So find your HK point. Pi over 2 -4, that's right there. This is a sine wave, so that point would actually be on the wave. Pi units later, well, for us, pi is 2 of these gray marks. So that would be 1 pi. So there's a pi between those. So that would be my second point on my sine wave. My third point on my sine wave is in between. My fourth point uses the amplitude in between the first and second, or I should say first and third, and goes up to about there. And the other two, between the last two points on the center line, we go down using the amplitude. So something like that. So we're up, down, and then back up again. So that's the basic shape of that particular one. Okay, let's go to page 21. Page 21 is also not in fireproof form, so I'm going to have to, first start off by subtracting 3, right? Pushing that to the other side, and then push that to the other side by dividing by 3/2, equals the sine of, well, let's see here, 2x plus pi over 2. And we want that to be a 1x. So we're going to multiply by 1/2 again. It's not always 1/2, by the way, folks, just because several of these examples have used 1/2. X plus pi over 4 divided by 1/2. Once again, pause the video if you want to try finding these on your own and seeing if you can do it. Same thing with the graphing. You could pause the video. Once you figure out that we agree on the HK, then you could pause it again, graph it yourself, and see if it matches. So A is 1/2. B is 3/2. 1.5 also if you wanted a decimal. H, negative pi over 4. Sorry for yawning. And K is positive 3. Okay, pause it if you want to try to graph it on your own. Okay, so we can see that this distance right here is negative pi over 2, so negative pi over 4 will be half of that. So my HK is sitting right about there. This is a sine wave, so that is actually on my wave. My period, I forgot to write that down, period. 2 pi times 1/2 is 1 pi. Hold on a second. And of course my amplitude is there. So pi units later, well, I'm going to have to I think in one of the previous questions, I also said if you know what what it would look like to go from 0 to pi, just back it up. In this case, back it up pi over 4 units to the left. When 1 point moves, everything moves. And we're going to go up 1.5 units, which is right about in here. Yeah, it's hard to draw. You're right about that. And then right in the middle there. So, up. Yes, I'm trusting that you can fill in the rest of the information based on what we've already talked about in previous notes. Those are all things that you should be able to answer. Okay. Let's see here. Next page. So let's put this in fireproof form. Y plus 1. Oops, that is a horrible looking Y. Y plus 1, because that comes to the other side, divided by 1.5. I promise by yawning I'm not trying to make you mad. It's just e-learning day, 7 o'clock in the morning, and you guys are all asleep while I'm not. So let's see here. 2x plus pi over 4 divided by 1. And I want that to be 1x. So I'm going to multiply by 1/2. I promise you they're not all 1/2. We've just been using 1/2 for some very nice examples. So 1x plus pi over 8. Ooh, getting a little ugly there. So once again, try to find your A, B, H, and K on your own. So pause the video and try. Period. Amplitude. Try to find all that stuff. Okay, your A is 1/2. Your B is 1.5. Your H, negative pi over 8. And your K is negative 1. So, I have a feeling I'm not going to like this graph. Okay, so period. Oops, let's see here. Period. We're taking half of 2 pi. So that's going to be 1 pi. The amplitude is what? 1.5. Okay. So let's find HK. Okay, so this is going to be tough on this particular graph. I'll show you why here. Maybe I should zoom in. So, negative pi over 2 sits here. That means that right here is negative pi over 4. Which means that right here is negative pi over 8. So my HK is really this location right here. Because that's negative pi over 8. So that one's kind of ugly. Okay, now, we know that this is a cosine wave, so that point is not actually on my wave. So how far up do I go? Well, I think our amplitude was 1.5. So that's going to put me right about here. How far to the right should I go before I find another point that starts the same pattern over again? Well, I think in this case our period was pi. So I want to be pi over 8 to the left of pi. Halfway in the middle, I'm all the way down at the bottom of the wave. That's 1.5 units below, so something like that. Guess I can undo that. I don't need those marks. Halfway in between here and here, center line. Halfway in between here and here, center line. There's our graph. I'll zoom out just a little bit. So, shifting that pi over 8 to the left, ooh, that was brutal. But that's what it was in this case. So that completes the notes for this e-learning today, and we will do more practice on this tomorrow before we take our test. Don't forget, you cannot forget. Here, I'll remind you by putting it in the video. Don't forget the unit circle from section 4.3. The cosine goes with x, and sine goes with y, and tangent goes with slope. Don't forget how to count around the circle in terms of pi over 6s or pi over 4s. Those are important things to know. Let's see what else. We practice these kind of things, and I would ask you questions like, where is this, and what value is the cosine or the sine or the tangent? Or we could do the reciprocal trig functions too. I talked to you about how you really need to remember these numbers. The 1/2, radical 2 over 2, radical 3 over 2, and 1. Those are your x's and y's. We talked about how, this one's going to look messy. We talked about how the most popular, maybe I should circle these, the most popular tangents were, of course, 1 in the middle. Oops, I'll zoom in on them. I already got them written down. Popular slopes were, oops, scribble, 1 in the middle, radical 3 above it, and radical 3 over 3 below it. So don't forget your slopes. Everything matches what you've already learned. Positive x's go to the right, negative x's go to the left. Those are your cosines. Positive y's go up, negative y's go down. Those are your sines. And tangents are slopes, so it's up to the right is positive, down to the right is negative. So, just some things to remind you about from section 4.3 that we will be asking you about on that test. I think that's pretty much the same. Oh, okay. You have a good e-learning day doing the rest of your work. Thanks. Bye.